The ceramic mug had a hairline crack, barely visible unless the light hit just right. She still used it every morning. Said it reminded her that things didn't have to be perfect to be worth holding on to. I used to think that was sweet. Now I just keep staring at that line, wondering when the whole thing's going to split in half. I met Lena at the dog park. Not the kind of place you expect to meet someone who changes your life, especially if you don't own a dog. My sister had guilt-tripped me into watching her golden retriever, Daisy, while she was away on a yoga retreat in Bali. I figured a few laps around the park would tire the furball out. Lena was standing by the gate, tugging at a leash attached to a stubborn black mutt that clearly didn't give a damn about her commands. She wore faded jeans, a zip-up hoodie with a broken zipper, and had her hair tied up in a messy knot that somehow looked deliberate. Not beautiful in a magazine cover way, but she had presence, a kind of raw, unfiltered energy, the kind that made you pause. We started talking because our dogs started fighting over a tennis ball. Or, more accurately, Daisy started fighting and Lena's dog gave up the ball like it was never his in the first place. "You always let bullies win?" I'd asked, kneeling to untangle leashes. "Only the pretty ones," she said, smirking. We went for coffee that day, lunch the next week, a movie after that. She moved into my apartment 7 months later. There were no big red flags, no late-night drama or social media bombs. She was easy to be around. Lena had this vibe, like she'd been through things, but made peace with them. She didn't overshare, but she didn't hide either. Told me once she'd been engaged a few years back, but the guy cheated on her with a coworker. They split, she moved cities, got a fresh start. She said it like she was reading it from a script she'd rehearsed to keep the emotions out of her voice. I respected that. I told her we didn't need to talk about him. I wish I'd asked more questions. The call came on a Saturday. We'd been painting the second bedroom. It was turning into an office/yoga space/maybe a nursery someday, depending on where our lives took us. We were on break, sitting on the floor eating Chinese food from the cartons, when her phone buzzed. She froze for half a second. Just half. Enough to make the air feel heavy. "Spam," she muttered, flipping it over. I didn't think much of it until later, when I walked past the kitchen and heard her whispering near the sink. Her back was turned. Her hand covered the mic. "No, you can't just call me like this." I didn't say anything. Not then. Just walked back to the living room, sat down, and stared at the blue painter's tape framing the window like a boundary line I hadn't known I needed. She didn't mention the call. I didn't push. The next day, I noticed her old mug, the one with the crack, was missing from the dish rack. Lena had told me a bit about the ex, Nathan. His name came up once when we were drunk on boxed wine, watching reruns of some bad reality dating show. He was a manipulator, she'd said, like it was a term she'd picked up in therapy. "You know the type. Makes you feel like everything's your fault, even when he's the one screwing up." I nodded. Everyone has an ex like that. I told her she deserved better. She smiled and kissed me and pulled the blanket tighter around both of us. But after that call, something shifted. She got quieter, spent more time in the second bedroom rearranging shelves and putting off painting the closet. Her phone started living face down more often. The password changed, and I started noticing things, like how she never corrected the Starbucks barista who called her by a different last name, her old one, or how she deleted her texts after reading them, or how she flinched when my phone rang too late at night, even if it was just my brother asking about fantasy football picks. It wasn't that I thought she was cheating. It was worse. I thought maybe she wasn't done with him. The real gut punch came 2 weeks later. I was at the local hardware store picking up hooks for the closet project we kept putting off. My phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail. I wish I had. "Hey," the voice said before I could speak. Is this Mark? Yeah. Who's this? A pause, then a chuckle. Nate. Nathan Calloway. Silence. Like someone had muted the store, and all I could hear was the faint buzz of the overhead fluorescent lights. I'm Lena's ex, he said casually. Figured we should talk. I clenched the phone tighter. Why? He laughed again. No reason, man. Just thought you should know. She used to call you her safe option. Said you were the kind of guy she'd settle down with when she was done having fun. You know, like the backup plan. I don't remember hanging up. Don't remember walking out of the store. I just remember my heart pounding, my hand shaking, and the way the plastic bag holding the hooks felt like it weighed 10 pounds. Backup plan. I didn't say anything to Lena that night. We ate pasta and watched Netflix and pretended everything was fine. She reached for my hand during the third episode. I let her. My fingers were stiff, like they belonged to someone else. That night, while she showered, I opened her dresser drawer and found the old phone she used to keep in the nightstand. I'd seen her move it 2 days ago. Thought it was just junk. It still turned on. No password. Messages from Nathan. Not many, but recent. From the day she got that call. Nate, you can't avoid me forever. Nate, I know you still think about us. Nate, he doesn't get you like I did. Nate, he's just the safe choice. You said it yourself. Lena, stop texting me. Lena, you're married now. Lena, leave me alone. And then nothing. I sat there staring at the last message, fingers hovering over the screen. She had told him to stop, told him to go away. But the words echoed anyway. Safe choice. Backup plan. Settle down guy. I didn't confront her that night, or the next. I told myself I needed time to think, to process, to decide if I believed her silence meant guilt or fear, or just the desire to move on from a part of her life that didn't deserve a second glance. But silence cuts both ways. She noticed I'd gone quiet, asked me what was wrong. I said, "Work's been hectic." She didn't press. On Thursday, we got takeout again. Her cracked mug was back in the dish rack. I thought this was gone, I said, holding it up. She looked up from her noodles, found it in the back of the cabinet, must have knocked it back there by mistake. She was lying, and I realized maybe she was doing what I was, trying to rewind to before that call, before the ghost of her past stepped into the room we were painting a future in. But ghosts don't need invitations. They just show up. Friday, I came home early, caught her on the couch with that old phone in her hands, not texting, just staring at the messages. She looked up, startled. "Why do you still have that?" I asked. She blinked. I didn't know it was still charged." "Why keep it at all?" She set it down. "Because part of me still needs to know I made the right choice." I didn't say anything. She stepped forward. "Mark, you're not my backup plan. You never were." I held up a hand. "Then why does he think you called me that?" Silence. Then, softly, carefully, "Because I did. Once, years ago, to him, before I met you, when I didn't know better. Do you know better now?" She nodded, but the pause before it made it feel like a script again. And me? I realized something standing there. The truth doesn't always come as a slap. Sometimes it's a sigh, a glance, a mug with a crack you suddenly can't stop seeing. "You're not some placeholder, Mark. That's not fair." She said it like the jury was still out, like my self-worth was up for debate, and she was just now starting her closing argument. I didn't say anything at first, just nodded, like that would somehow settle the storm twisting in my gut. Lena didn't sleep in the bed that night. She said she was giving me space, but she didn't ask if I wanted space. She just picked up her pillow, grabbed an old hoodie off the desk chair, and disappeared into the second bedroom. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the fan spinning above like it was trying to hypnotize me into forgetting what I'd heard. Backup plan. It's not a phrase that leaves you quickly. It seeps into everything, every memory, every quiet moment. You start wondering if the smile was real or just rehearsed, if the nights you made her laugh actually mattered, or if they were just boxes being checked until something better didn't show up. The next morning, the apartment was dead quiet. No clinking spoons, no kettle, no soft humming from the bathroom. I found her sitting on the balcony, knees pulled up, hoodie sleeves covering her hands. She didn't turn when I opened the sliding door, just stared at the skyline like it had something to say. "You sleep at all?" I asked. She shook her head. Neither did I. I sat beside her, the cold metal chair pressing into my back. "You want to talk about it?" I said. She finally looked at me. "I don't know what to say anymore." "Then say anything. Say what you meant when you called me your backup." Her eyes welled up, but not dramatically. Just that slow build pressure people feel when they've been holding it together too long. "I said that to him 2 years before I met you," she said. "It was after we broke up the first time. He left, and I told myself I needed someone different, someone stable, someone who wouldn't lie. And I fit that bill. You exceeded it." I didn't know what to say to that. It sounded honest, but so had everything else, until it didn't. That day at work, I kept rereading Nathan's text. "He's just the safe choice. You said it yourself." The worst part wasn't that he said it. It was how confident he sounded saying it. That kind of certainty doesn't come from guessing. It comes from hearing it straight out of someone's mouth. And that's when I did the thing I knew I shouldn't have done. I texted him back. "Me, you said she called me her backup. When was that?" He responded within 10 minutes. "Nathan, January 12th, 2 years ago. We had dinner. She said she was seeing someone new. Said he was decent, stable. Not exciting, but good long-term potential." Her words. "Nathan, she even joked that you were the kind of guy she'd marry when she was tired of roller coasters." I didn't reply. I didn't trust myself to. But that night, when Lena made stir-fry like it was a peace offering, I couldn't eat more than a bite. She asked if I was okay. I said yes. She didn't believe me, but she didn't press. The second bedroom slowly became hers, not officially, but by occupation. She slept there 3 nights in a row. Said she wanted to respect my feelings. I couldn't figure out if that was considerate or cowardly. Meanwhile, I kept trying to replay our relationship from the beginning. Was she ever in love with me? I thought about the little things. The way she used to squeeze my hand twice before letting go. The way she once cried during a movie and buried her face in my hoodie sleeve, like she trusted me to protect her from the world. Even a fictional one. Those moments felt real. But now, I wasn't sure if real and enough were the same thing. On Sunday, I found an envelope tucked into the side of the closet where we kept winter clothes. It was thick, yellowing, stuffed with old photos and scribbled on notebook paper. I don't know why I opened it. Maybe I was looking for answers Lena wouldn't say out loud. Inside were pictures, some recent, some ancient. Her with Nathan, smiling, camping, Halloween in matching outfits. There was one photo that made my stomach twist. It was a candid, her sitting on a couch, barefoot, cross-legged, wearing one of my old t-shirts. But it wasn't my apartment. She was laughing. And Nathan was standing in the background, holding a coffee mug, looking at her like she was the only person in the universe. The date on the back? 4 months before we met. I waited until she came home from the grocery store. Waited until she set down the bags and kicked off her shoes and reached for her phone like nothing had changed. I held up the photo. Was this taken before or after you said you were done with him? She stared at it. Her eyes didn't flinch, but her hand twitched near her side. After, she said. But it wasn't what it looks like. No? Then what is it? She opened her mouth, closed it, then looked me dead in the eye. I saw him again. Once. We talked. He begged for another chance. I thought about it. For like 2 seconds. And you wore my shirt? Her voice cracked. I missed you. That answer broke something in me. I didn't yell. Didn't throw anything. Didn't storm out. I just sat down, put the photo on the table, and stared at it until she left the room. She didn't try to stop me. Didn't say a word. The next day, she was gone. No note. No text. Just a row of empty hangers and a voicemail from our building manager saying someone had asked about subletting. I wish I could say I was surprised, or angry, or even relieved, but I just stood in the middle of the second bedroom and realized I didn't even know what I was fighting for anymore. Love? Closure? Or the feeling that I'd never just been someone's backup plan? It was 6:38 on a Monday morning when I noticed her contact was gone from my favorites. No warning, no explanation, just gone. The air in the apartment was stale, and the silence had weight. Like even the walls were waiting to see if I'd say her name out loud. I didn't. The first 2 days after Lena left, I told myself it was temporary. She'd cool off, come back, text me some long paragraph about needing time but still loving me. Instead, I got nothing. No thinking of you. No, are you okay? No passive-aggressive quote post on Instagram. Just radio silence. It wasn't like her. Even when we fought, rare as it was, she never went completely dark. She was the kind of person who had to get the last word, even if it was a sarcastic emoji or a thumbs-down reaction to something I said. This felt surgical, like she had planned it. By Wednesday, the apartment felt like a museum of what we used to be. Her sandals were still by the door, half buried under mine. The spare key I'd made her was gone. The calendar still had our plans for the month circled in red. Hike Wad Lena, dinner, we/Steph plus Caleb, bookstore event 7 p.m. I should have erased them. Instead, I just stopped looking at it. My buddy Darren called that night. I hadn't told him anything yet. Figured I could keep this private a little longer. Yo, you still coming Friday? He asked. Friday? Yeah, game night. You and Lena said you'd bring that weird beer she likes. There was a pause. Then, cautiously, everything good? I wanted to lie, to say she was working late or had a family thing, but the truth had already built a lump in my throat the size of a fist. She left, I said. He exhaled hard. Damn, man. I'm sorry. I'm not even mad, I told him. That's the worst part. He didn't say anything for a second, then, you want me to beat up her ex? I actually laughed. First time in days. Nah, I said, but keep it in your back pocket. By Thursday, I broke. I went looking. No, I didn't drive around or stalk her socials. I knew better than that, but I did go through our texts, scrolled all the way back to the beginning. The emojis, the inside jokes, the blurry selfies from greasy diners, the playlist she'd made me with songs like Sweet Disposition and Stubborn Love. At the very end, I found a draft I'd never sent, something I typed out the night I found the photo of her and Nathan. You told me I was enough, but if you already knew what enough looked like, why'd you ever go back? I deleted it again. Friday night, I showed up to game night anyway. Darren gave me a look like he wasn't sure if he should hug me or hand me a beer. He did both. It felt good to laugh, to talk trash during cards, to yell at the TV when someone picked a bad movie trailer on YouTube. But the moment I walked into the kitchen for water, I heard it. Her name. Caleb. So Lena just dipped? Steph. Mark's being tight-lipped. But yeah, probably the ex again. Some guys never let go. Caleb. Or some women don't know what they want. They weren't saying it to be cruel, but it hit like gravel in my chest anyway. I walked back in with the fakest smile I've ever worn. The next day, I did what I promised myself I wouldn't. I messaged Nathan. Me. Did you know she left? He replied instantly. Nathan. No, but not surprised. Me. Why? Nathan. Because she always runs when things feel too stable. Me. So you're saying this is my fault? Nathan. Nah. I'm saying she's scared of being loved the right way. Happened with me too. That last message? It stayed with me. She's scared of being loved the right way. I didn't respond to Nathan. Didn't plan to, but his words nested inside me like a splinter. And that's when I realized something. I didn't actually know Lena. I knew the version she let me see. The morning routines, the small rituals, the playlists, and the hoodie stealing and the sarcastic affection. But her fears, her wounds, her reasons for choosing a guy like me after a guy like him, she never let me that deep. And maybe I never pushed because I didn't want to see what was buried there. Sunday, I got a text from her. Hey, can we talk? No emojis, no smiley face, no hearts, just words. Clean, precise. I stared at it for 5 minutes before responding. Me. When and where? Lena. The park. Where we met. Tomorrow? Me. Okay. The next afternoon, the dog park was almost empty. Just a kid with a corgi chasing leaves and a guy on a bench muttering into his AirPods. Lena was by the gate. Same spot she stood the first day we met. Same hoodie. Different posture. More guarded. I walked up slowly. She didn't smile. She spoke first. I'm sorry for disappearing. I nodded. Why'd you do it? She looked down at her shoes, scuffed white sneakers I hadn't seen in months. Because I panicked, she said. Because I thought I ruined everything, and instead of trying to fix it, I ran. Why? She bit her lip. Because I thought maybe Nathan was right. My jaw tightened. About what? That you deserved better. That I used you to heal. That I told myself I was over him when maybe I wasn't. I wanted to scream, to walk away, but instead I just stood there, hands in my pockets, heart cracking a little more. She continued. I didn't go back to him, Mark. I promise. I needed space to figure out why I kept repeating the same patterns. And did you? She nodded, eyes shining. I think so. And I know I hurt you. And I don't expect you to forgive me right now. But I couldn't let silence be the last thing between us. We sat on a bench. Talked. Really talked. About her past. About her therapy sessions she never told me about. About the way Nathan's voice still echoed in her head, even though she hated it. About how she called me her safe choice, because she didn't have the vocabulary to call me her healthy one. I didn't say much, just listened. And when she finally stopped talking, I asked her one question. Do you still love him? She shook her head. No, I love what I thought he was. And me? She looked me in the eye. No hesitation this time. I love you, but I need to love myself right before I can love you the way you deserve. And that was the real truth, the one I needed, the one that hurt and healed in the same breath. We didn't get back together that day. We didn't kiss. We didn't hold hands. We just sat there, two people who had finally stopped pretending. The hoodie she left behind smelled like her perfume, and a little like lavender dryer sheets. I held it for a minute longer than I meant to, then folded it and put it back on the shelf. She wasn't gone, but she wasn't. Mine either. 2 weeks passed after the park bench conversation. We didn't talk every day. There were no long calls, No late-night texts saying, "I miss you," or "I made a mistake." Just space. Intentional. Structured. Mutually agreed upon space. But it didn't feel like avoidance. It felt like both of us were breathing for the first time in months. Still, I caught myself checking my phone more often than I wanted to admit. A buzz meant maybe it was her. A silence meant maybe she changed her mind. That in-between phase, it's brutal. You're not grieving a breakup exactly. You're grieving a pause, and pauses are quiet in all the wrong ways. My sister Nina came back from Bali around that time. Daisy the retriever barked her welcome for 3 full minutes, like she'd just escaped a hostage situation. "You look like crap," Nina said, tossing her duffel on my couch. "Nice to see you too." We ordered Thai food, and I filled her in, selectively. I didn't mention Nathan's messages or the photo of Lena in my shirt. I just said things got complicated and we were taking a break. Nina's eyes narrowed halfway through her pad thai. "She left without saying anything?" "Yeah." "She ghosted you. That's not a break. That's a red flag with a siren on top." "She came back." Nina raised an eyebrow. "For what? Closure or a clean conscience?" I didn't answer. She didn't push. But before she left, she hugged me and said something that stuck. "You're not anyone's second choice, Mark. And if she makes you feel like that again, I'll key her car." Lena and I met for coffee that Friday. Neutral ground. It wasn't a date. She wore that green cardigan I always liked, the one with sleeves too long for her hands. I noticed she hadn't done her nails. That was new. She always kept them short but polished. She looked tired, but more real than ever. She asked about work. I asked about her latest therapy session. "It's not just about him," she said, stirring her tea. "It's about me. About why I keep chasing people who break me, and why I feel guilty when someone doesn't." That hit harder than I expected. I didn't know what to say to that. I just nodded. Then she added, "I never said you were my backup plan. Not to him, not even once." My stomach flipped. "I saw the messages," I said quietly. Her eyes widened a little. "You what?" "The old phone. I checked." Silence. Then, "I told him to leave me alone." "I know, but he said—" "He lied." She didn't even blink. "He always twists things. He doesn't want me back. He just wants to make sure no one else gets me either." I believed her, and that terrified me. We didn't settle anything that day. There was no sweeping declaration, no "let's get back together" music cue, but we agreed to talk again, to keep talking, to stop pretending that love could grow without roots. A few days later, Lena sent me a photo of the cracked mug. She'd glued it, carefully. Seam lines still visible. Under the photo, she wrote, "Still not perfect, still mine." The following week, I met her therapist. Not in session, just bumped into them at a bookstore downtown. Dr. Conway, mid-40s, wire glasses, soft voice. "You must be Mark," he said. "She speaks highly of you." I nodded awkwardly. "Hope it's the good parts." "She's doing the work," he said. "Sometimes that's the bravest thing someone can do." I didn't know how to respond, so I bought a book I didn't need and left before I said something weird. That weekend, Lena invited me over to her new apartment. Small, studio style, potted plants by the window, 2 mugs on the drying rack, including the cracked one. I brought Thai food. She brought honesty. We talked until midnight. Then she handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten. I won't repeat all of it, but here's what I remember most. "You weren't my backup plan, Mark. You were the first time I saw what safe could actually mean. Not boring, not predictable. Safe, like the ground under your feet when you stop running. I didn't leave you because I stopped loving you. I left because I didn't know how to love you without letting my past infect everything. I'm learning now, slowly. But if I'm going to be worthy of you, it has to be because I chose to come back healed, not broken. I looked up. She was watching me the whole time. I don't need a decision today, she said. I just needed you to know. I stayed that night. We didn't sleep together. We didn't kiss. We lay next to each other, fingers barely touching, like two people remembering how to be something real. 3 days later, Nathan called me. I let it go to voicemail. He left a message. Hey man, I guess she's playing both of us. Thought you should know I saw her outside my office building. She didn't say hi, but she was watching. Thought that was weird. I deleted it, blocked his number. Then I called Lena. She picked up on the second ring. I need to ask you something, I said. Okay. Were you at his office this week? Her voice didn't hesitate. No. You sure? Positive. Why? I told her about the call. She sighed. He works 2 blocks from my gym. I walk that route sometimes. Maybe he saw me. Maybe he's making it up. That uncertainty again. That damn gray space between truth and trigger. I believe you, I said. But you need to block him too. I already did. And just like that, something inside me exhaled. That night, I looked at a photo of us from last spring. Cherry blossoms, wind, her head on my shoulder, my arm around her. I didn't see a backup plan. I saw 2 people who almost lost each other, and maybe, just maybe, didn't have to. The sunlight pouring through her window made the plants look like they were glowing, peaceful, thriving. But I was standing there, holding my backpack, heart racing, wondering if this was the start of something new, or just the final scene before the credits rolled. Nothing about this moment felt peaceful. Lena opened the door in a white t-shirt and joggers, barefoot, hair wet from the shower. She looked startled, even though she was the one who'd texted me, "Come over, no pressure, just talk." That's the thing about people like us. Even when we say no pressure, we feel all of it. We sat on her couch with mugs of coffee, hers the cracked one, glued with precision. I couldn't stop staring at that thin silver seam where the ceramic had broken and healed. It reminded me of us. Not flawless, but held together with care. "I've been thinking," she said, setting her mug down. "Yeah? I don't want to spend my life convincing someone I'm whole or waiting for someone else to tell me I'm ready." She looked up at me. "I don't want to keep hurting people who deserve more than my unfinished healing." I nodded slowly. "Are you saying goodbye?" I asked. "No," she said. "I'm saying I don't want to start again until I know I won't confuse comfort with safety or guilt with love." That sat heavy between us. Then I leaned back and said, "Lena, I'm not looking for a fairy tale. I never was." Her eyes searched mine. "I know. I just need the truth. Always. Even if it's ugly." She smiled, a small, broken smile. "Then here's the truth. I love you, but I don't trust myself yet. And if I can't trust myself, how can I ask you to trust me again?" I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. "I'm not going anywhere," I said. I said, "but I won't wait forever. I'm not asking you to." In the weeks that followed, we carved out something new. Not a relationship. Not exactly friends. We met for lunch. We texted some nights. She shared a podcast that made her cry. I sent her a meme that made me laugh until I choked on my tea. She started painting again, bought canvases from a second-hand store, and filled them with muted tones and abstract shapes that felt like emotion in disguise. I went back to the gym, hung out with friends more, even downloaded a dating app, not to use, just to prove to myself I could. But I didn't want anyone else. Not really. One afternoon, Lena sent me a photo of her new painting. It looked like a storm cloud ripping open above a quiet house. The caption read, "It's called Not a Threat, because not every storm means the house collapses." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I texted back, "I'm still standing." She replied, "Me too." A month later, we found ourselves back at the dog park. No dogs this time, just us. Sitting on the same bench where I first realized I was falling for her. She reached into her bag and pulled out a letter. Folded. Thick. I raised an eyebrow. "You writing a novel?" "Just things I never said. Things I couldn't explain in the moment." "Why now?" "Because I'm finally ready, and because I don't want you to just hear it. I want you to read it. Slowly, without me interrupting, without my face making it harder." I took it, heart thudding. "And what if I don't like what I read?" "Then at least it's honest," she said, "and I'll respect whatever you decide." I read the letter that night, alone, lamp on, music off. She wrote about fear, about trauma, about the lie of thinking healing has to be private, about how she learned the difference between someone rescuing her and someone walking beside her. She wrote about me, not just as the guy she dated, but as the man who made her feel safe enough to finally admit she didn't have it all together. And at the very end, she wrote, "You were never my backup plan. You were the version of love I never believed I deserved. If you still believe in me, then maybe we can build something from the truth, not the rubble." I called her. "Come over," I said. "Please." She came. No hesitation. When I opened the door, she looked nervous. I pulled her into a hug, not out of pity, not out of longing, out of certainty, because I knew what I wanted, and this time she knew what she was ready for. We didn't rush back in. We dated again, on purpose, 1 month, then 2. She met my parents, for real this time, without the filter of me protecting her from awkward questions. I met her brother. We played pool and drank beer and talked about childhood and heartbreak and how she used to cry when she lost at Monopoly. We had hard days, but not like before. We argued, but not to win, just to be heard. We sat in silence some nights, watching the same old shows, laughing at the same old jokes. But the love? It was new. Because it came without pretense, without old baggage disguised as maturity. 6 months later, she moved back in. She brought 2 mugs, the cracked one and a new one we picked out together. No more hiding the past, no more measuring ourselves against ghosts. Just 2 people, building something fragile, messy, real. And that second bedroom, it finally became something else. Not an escape, not a boundary, but a space for something growing, slowly, bravely, honestly, maybe even something lasting. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.